young, impressionable men down a path to support a politics that's going to lower their wages, give them worse health care, lead to more jobs being outsourced, destroy the regulatory state completely, lead to more wars. And yeah, that's why I've been on that warpath lately.
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Brian Tyler Cohen going after Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has been accused of being a bait and switch. Brian Tyler Cohen gets into it. Let's watch.
And only then, when it comes time to have an election around like September, October, when that stuff is really in the zeitgeist, will they start to talk about it. But by that, and of course, you know, their opinions are informed by right-wing ideology. So, but by that point, people who have listened to them have been listening to them for 3 or 4 hours a day, and they trust them. And so when Democrats have like come in September or October of an election year and dump $1 billion, $2 billion into these ads on TV that go in one ear and out the other, that's not going to be able to contend with what the right has, which is, again, all of these like right-wing, like right-influenced influencers, and they've got an audience who trusts them, who derives their entire worldview from listening to these people on a daily basis. And so when those people give their political opinions, people are going to listen, and they're going to be so much more influential than just saying like, oh, look, I saw an ad on CBS during a football game, and so that's how I'm going to create my political worldview right now. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's not that people like they're going to take their cues from Joe Rogan if they've listened to Joe Rogan for the last 12 months for 4 hours a day. When he finally starts to talk about politics in September or October, they're not going to do it because they saw some ad by the Democratic Party in October.
And that's why you actually hit the nail on the head as to why Rogan has really gotten under my skin and I've really been going after him, is because he did a bait and switch. He was for a very long time left coded, and he would talk about left-wing issues. And then over time, he ended up flipping and endorsing Trump. And he knows that Trump massively cut taxes for the wealthy and corporations. He knows that we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under Trump. He knows that Trump presided over a net loss of 2.9 million jobs. He knows that 2.3 million people lost health insurance under him. He knows he appointed more Wall Street CEOs and billionaires than any president in history. He knows he filled the NLRB with union busters. He knows that his labor department stiffed 8 million workers of overtime pay. And I think that's what frustrates me, is exactly what you described.
So right here we have Brian Tyler Cohen saying that, you know, Joe Rogan might not necessarily be a conservative, speakerhead. You might not see him on Fox News, but he is informed by right-wing ideologies. With that being said, he is now propaganda, especially during the time whenever he has Trump on, whenever he has J.D. Vance on, but it doesn't seem to have anyone else. You know, it doesn't seem to have the other side of the story. So. And then we have Kyle Kulinski, who even provides the fact of he knows all of these things that are going on. So not only is Kyle Kulinski is saying that maybe he's not even informed by right-wing ideologies, maybe he just becomes a shill, because he almost seemed informed by, more leftist, more liberal ideologies, and he switched out of nowhere.
Which is he was a cultural podcaster first, and just like you're everyman first. But then effectively, he basically sane washed the right and made it seem like, oh, they're the down-to-earth ones. They're the ones who are more realistic and more like you and understand you. And I think people are in for a really, really rude awakening about that when they realize your wages aren't going up. You're not getting better health care. More jobs are going to be outsourced, and it's going to be more tax cuts for the rich, and it's going to be a disaster.
Well, what would you attribute that to? Because would you say it's because these guys are just wealthy and Republicans are just better for wealthy people? And of course, they have to use culture wars as a distraction so that people don't pay attention to their economic agenda. Or B, do you think that he was a perpetrator or a victim of this whole distraction campaign where Republicans made the entire election basically a referendum on a talking point that didn't exist in practice? This idea that Kamala Harris's agenda was gender reassignment surgeries among trans inmates in prison, something that came about in 2019 and that she's disavowed since then. And so do you think that for him, this is something, again, do you think that he is somebody who knew about this and was like, okay, I want a better economic agenda, so I'm going to keep pushing this along with the other people at the top of the Republican Party who know better, but fuck it, we'll just keep pushing it anyway? Or do you think that he was actually like a victim of this disinformation campaign himself. And he's like, oh, I keep hearing about trans inmates in prison, and so this must be the thing that everybody's talking about in politics. This must be what this election is a referendum on.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think his friend group, he's surrounded by like edgy right-wing comedians who think just offending people is comedy, basically. And you mix that with their like weird obsession with free speech, where they built this idea in their mind that like, oh, it's only censorious college lefties who crack down on free speech. Not like Trump or anything is super censorious and authoritarian. Never that, of course.
Right.
But like, you immerse yourself in that world. You're surrounded by right-wing voices all the time. And then, he's mega wealthy and he's surrounded.
And here's where I come in with, I have to give a little bit of credit to whenever Trump was first, coming into the scene. He used and exploited this idea that nobody trusts the government. Nobody trusts what's going on the liberal side. People are sort of done with the liberals. You guys sort of sold us out to the corporations. It really didn't like work as well as what we thought. And then he called out the hypocrisy on the right as well. He used both of those things to his advantage, to where he said, hey, look, our government's completely, either side is really corrupt. We have a bankrupt democratic system. It's just not going right. That is where I believe that Joe Rogan really starts to, get confused. And, and even though he may not agree completely with what Trump's saying, as far as policy goes, or as far as the lies that he actually does spew himself, he does find a little bit of attraction in the fact that he's just like me. He also sees this government as a sham. We could crack beers together, and I believe that that's where he got. And I think that you have to say it like that. You have to say where these people got. They got, tricked into a made-believe. The salesman, Trump, sold the dream pretty well that, hey, I'm just like you guys, blah, blah, blah. And then now we can see he's nothing like anybody. We can see the true colors are showing. They're literally about to, cost America its entire freedom.
Surrounded by UFC fighters who are pro-Trump, surrounded by wealthy business people who are pro-Trump, celebrities who are pro-Trump. He sort of cocooned himself in this right-wing echo chamber. And then I think eventually over time it became he's more the perpetrator than the victim. But he started out as a victim. And then now it's very clear he's just thrown his lot in with MAGA. And the same way he has his like conservative comedian friend group and they all look out for each other. Now I think that tent has broadened to like now I also look out for J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and Republican politicians. But at the end of the day, however he got there, it's almost irrelevant to me because he's become a massive purveyor of misinformation and disinformation and the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. And he's dragging young, impressionable men down a path to support a politics that's going to lower their wages, give them worse health care, lead to more jobs being outsourced, destroy the regulatory state completely, lead to more wars. And that's why I've been on that war path lately. I mean, I'm sure but one of the biggest things that I talk about all the time is it drove me crazy that there was this perception among MAGA that Trump is anti-war.
Yeah.
That's never been true. It's never been close to true. He's gone around this entire campaign. He was going around talking about war with Mexico and war with Iran. He told Israel to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Like, at some point, the information, the facts have to actually matter. His first term has to matter. The stuff he's saying on the campaign trail has to matter. But MAGA got it in their head that, no, somehow he's anti-war and Kamala Harris is the war hawk because Liz Cheney endorsed her. And it just drives me crazy, man.
Well, the crazy part about that, I spoke to Cenk a few weeks ago, and he basically said, I asked him, I was like, what's your red line where you're going to stop giving basically the MAGA universe the benefit of the doubt? This idea that, okay, they are supportive of him because of like policy, as opposed to what I think it is just because he says jump, they say how high. All of the principles are malleable, and whatever he wants them, like it can, whatever way the wind blows, he'll change, and then all these people will go along with him. He said that exact thing. He said that they are anti-war, and that's my red line, and I'll stop giving them the benefit of the doubt once we see Trump engage in some.
And look, that's exactly what I've been saying. As far as what is Trump's ability? How is he able to get people? You have to understand the situation on why he's thriving. He's out here and he's calling out the hypocrisy. He's calling out, again, why is Kamala Harris parading the fact that she is getting endorsed by Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney is a war criminal, 17% approval rating. Why? What does that have to do with, like, if that doesn't show the bankruptcy of the current state of what's going on, then I don't know what does. If you have Trump who's calling out all of this, you have people that are confused, you have people that don't really care about politics per se, but they care about them. They care about them in relation to the system and to whatever. And he can build these conspiracies, build these things up, which really isn't even a conspiracy because, again, why is Kamala parading that fact? What's going on? And I believe that that's where he gets a lot of these young men, along with, Joe Rogan, along with the entire fan base. They eat that crap up.
Some hawkish behavior, and they don't abandon him. He hasn't even taken office yet, and right now he's been threatening war with like Denmark to be able to annex Greenland, threatening war with Panama, and like expressly came out and said this isn't, we're going to keep all options on the table, military and economic. And so, like, this idea, even before he's in office, he's already undermining the very thing that all of these Republicans are putting themselves out on a limb for, which is this idea, again, to your exact point, that he's the guy that's going to keep us out of war. He's going to be the pro-peace candidate. He's going to be the one to keep all of the money inside the United States and not worry about foreign wars. And, like, what do you think that Mexico, Canada, Greenland, Denmark, Panama are all just going to roll over and say, yeah, go ahead, annex our territory?
So there we have it, you guys. We have Brian Tyler Cohen going off on Joe Rogan and the entire fan base, just saying that you guys have that this isn't really what you had originally thought it was. This is now you've been sold into fascist propaganda. And yeah, either Joe Rogan's selling out or he's been misled. It's either one or the other. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.